Hello, everybody. How great it is to say hello to the members of BD Nation for tonight's episode of CBD 101 with Dr. Sharma. The last several days, I don't know if it's just been an unusual thing or not, but so many places where I've been out in public, I've seen signs and buildings with logos on it, all relating to CBD. And I took that as a great sign that our Allure products definitely are game changers and can definitely make a difference in what we're doing here at By Design, and how lucky we are that we have this outstanding line of Allure products that are doctor formulated by the expert that is on this call with us again tonight, Dr. Sharma. And as it is for me every single time that we host CBD 101, I'm always so honored to be able to share these introductory comments with such a phenomenally great person, a physician, and the guy who created these unbelievable products. And it's always so much fun to listen to the new knowledge that Dr. Sharma is going to share with all of us on this episode of CBD 101 as we're all together on the 30th of August, Monday night. And it's a beautiful night for me. I hope it is for all of you. So without any further delay, let me turn the microphone over to Dr. Sharma.
Dave, thank you for the introduction. As always, if there are any questions or comments, please put them in the Q&A or chat so we can talk about them as we go along. Really like it to be a conversation. We're going to be talking about the history of CBD and how old this product or this plant is, and how over the centuries and millennia, people have been using hemp or CBD for really the same issues that we currently use it for in terms of pain, anxiety, sleep. So this is actually a fossil found on the Tibetan plain, and it is approximately 7 million years old. And the fossil is that of a cannabinoid or cannabis leaf. Cannabacea or hemp is part of the hops family. And so it's a plant that's been around, and really as we go along, hopefully you get from this, it's been used by every civilization, culture, to help deal with the same issues that we currently use it for. And the plant itself is different depending on the continent. What's common to us is hemp or CBD derived from Cannabis sativa, which is a very tall plant. The trunks tend to be very fibrous. Cannabis indica is a smaller plant or a shorter plant and tends to be predominantly in Asia. And then Cannabis ruderalis has been found in Russia, primarily because it's a much faster and hardier to survive those, steep colds, temperature changes in Russia. But as I said, hemp has really been used throughout the millennia. Was first recorded use was 5,000 years ago in China. And they used it for abdominal pain, headaches, those kinds of issues. In India, it's actually been written about in the sacred texts of India, the Vedas, 4 sacred texts. The Atharva Veda is one of those texts, and the Book of Spells, but it's listed as one of the 5 sacred plants of India in terms of helping heal issues most commonly GI issues and pain. It's used in the Middle East. Again, what I really want to get across to people is that hemp has been used, whether it was used for medicinal purposes, structure like rope, cloth, paper. It's a plant that we're all very, very familiar with throughout the world and used to. Europe used it primarily. They used a fibrous stalk for building materials, paper, rope. It was really popularized by the British through the East India Tea Company. This is William O'Shaughnessy, a physician working for the East India Tea Company in India, and found that local people were using a tincture or oil made from this plant to help with issues, GI issues, headaches, pain, and he's really popularized the medicinal power of it in Europe. Even Queen Victoria was known to use cannabis tea for premenstrual syndrome or premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It would help with pain, mood. In the US, cannabis was sold in pharmacies well into the early 1900s. The early regulatory efforts to try to regulate all medicines actually required states to hold certain medicinals that they provided through pharmacies and actually label, still sell it, but you had to label it as a poison. Real common companies that we all know of, Eli Lilly, Park Davis, large pharmaceutical companies that were selling basically cannabis tincture well into the early 1900s. These regulatory efforts led to the formation of the FDA, which was formulated in 1938. And over time, that led to the scheduling of all medicines. And there's 5 schedules, fairly straightforward. Schedule 1 is anything that has no medicinal value or maybe habit forming or may have significant side effects. Since the scheduling came about, cannabis or cannabinoids have been labeled, CBD has been labeled as Schedule 1. But over the last really 2 decades, things have been changing quite a bit from the regulatory efforts to make CBD available, widely available. I mean, you can see CBD products and, not as good quality as ours in terms of ALLUR products, but you can see CBD products primarily anywhere. You can see them at the store, pet stores, salons, really everywhere now. And over time, hemp itself has been used for so many different things. I was surprised to find out that actually Henry Ford built a experimental car body from hemp that had a stronger than steel in terms of its in the 1940s. But overall, people have recognized the benefits from the plant, and really things started to change in the early 2000s hemp was identified and allowed to be in nutraceuticals, topicals. In 2014, the Farm Bill allowed the, let's see, we have a hand that's raised. Barbara raised a hand, and Barbara, if you can just put it in the questions or the Q&A, I'll be happy to answer questions. Let's see. So as I was saying, 2014, President Obama signed the Farm Bill, which allowed for CBD products to be made and commercially sold from the seed and stalk of the plant. And then in 2018, President Trump actually legalized the interstate commerce for CBD products made from the entire plant. So things have changed quite a bit. And CBD itself, in terms of as a therapeutic product, research really began in the early 60s when we were able to identify the structure of the cannabinoids and start to really learn what they can and can't do. And that's really been really over the last decade with the growth of the industry in terms of helping people alleviate pain, anxiety, GI issues, all sorts of things that we've begun to learn that not only the cannabinoids, but I know we've talked about in the past, other essential oils that are found in hemp, terpenoids or terpenes, have profound effects throughout our body, not only for pain, but just inflammation throughout our body can impact our minds to help us with sleep, anxiety. I just wanted to present a couple of important historical points that really led to the acceptance of cannabinoids or CBD for really some difficult ailments. People may have heard the word Charlotte's Web. It really comes from this little girl, Charlotte Beatty, who had Dravet syndrome, where she would have anywhere from 300 to 400 seizures a day. And by actually taking a really concentrated amount of CBD from a strain called, which has come to be known as Charlotte's Web, she was able to have really a normal childhood and drop her seizures from 300 to 400 a day to maybe 1 to 3 very, very minor seizures. People may have heard of someone named Rick Simpson, who's really been famous for creating a concentrated form of CBD oil, or Rick Simpson's oil. He started on this quest because of his own skin cancer and battling his own skin cancer. So the history of CBD is very long, vast. Uses have been consistent throughout the millennia. And as we progress, more and more states, more and more countries are realizing the benefits of CBD itself. If you look on this slide, as we talked about, 2018 was a really momentous year for the CBD industry in the US. In 2019, the EU made hemp products legal throughout their 26 countries. excuse me. And in 2020, the UN actually recommended that globally we reschedule cannabis from 1 to a 3. One of the countries that we know very well, Thailand. Thailand was actually the first country in the world to recognize CBD as a therapeutic. So throughout this world of ours, we've come really a long way in terms of accepting hemp as a nutraceutical, a therapeutic, and the industry is incredibly vibrant in terms of different products. And I know that we here at ALLUR, we pride ourselves in providing products that are going to be effective for what we say they are, as well as being transparent in terms of what's within the products. And I don't know if anyone had questions. I'm happy to answer questions. That was kind of a whirlwind in terms of the history of hemp and CBD. It's really, we have a very vibrant industry. I think COVID really set many businesses back, but I think slowly the trajectory is going to be back in terms of how fast an industry this is.
Dr. Sharma, maybe I'll start with one question for you, and
Sure.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for that that trip through some of the history of cannabis and CBD. Very, very helpful information. The question I have is, do I understand correctly that full spectrum CBD products include all of the helpful elements of cannabis plant, including even some of the THC? Is that one of the major differences between full spectrum and broad spectrum?
That's a great question. Sure. So whenever the industry recognizes really two types of products, full spectrum, broad spectrum. Broad spectrum products have no THC. That's really been their niche. Full spectrum products will have legally up to 0.3% THC within the product itself. So yeah, that's a great question. But that's I think it's important for ambassadors to know for their customers that if people have a job that requires them to be drug tested, or if they have a company that has a fairly strict drug policy, that even that small amount of 0.3% doesn't sound like a lot, but even that small amount of THC will show up on a test. Whereas in broad spectrum products should have absolutely no THC.
In other words, in the full spectrum, even though it is completely within the legal limits of THC, it can still show up on a drug screening test for some employers that mandate that kind of testing. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And for that small of an amount of THC in a full spectrum CBD product, is there any, for those people that would be concerned, for example, about, and I don't even really know what the right word to use is, but the hallucinogenic impact that maybe recreational users of smoking marijuana is that small amount of THC in a full spectrum CBD product going to give any concern to consumers who don't want that impact?
So that's a great question. The answer is really no. The amount of THC that's within full spectrum products is so small. 0.3%, usually, even if it's a concentration of, let's say, one, it's math. Usually, if you have anything that's psychoactive, you'd need at least 5 milligrams, and 0.3% for an entire bottle. You're talking a pretty small amount. But sure, if somebody was to ingest a large amount, you definitely could see some. But I think it'd be very, very rare, very, very small chance that somebody would have any psychoactive issues if they took a full spectrum product.
Okay. Now I'll go off with just one other very random type of question. If you were actually speaking to a brand ambassador or even a consumer of By Design products, if you wanted them to have as great of an experience as fast as possible with one or two of the ALLUR products, which ones would you recommend?
So the ALLUR products are really meant for really different things. I think they're all fantastic. I think in terms of hastening the pain relief, what I recommend to people is that tinctures, some people, when they take the tincture, they just may swallow it. The important thing is if you can let the tincture rest under your tongue for about 30 to 45 seconds, the enzymes in your saliva will actually start to activate the cannabinoids. So that tends to hasten the effects. Usually with tinctures, you're going to see the effects of what you're using within about 45 minutes to an hour. You can kind of hasten that to 15 to 30 minutes if you just do that simple thing of letting the tincture rest under your tongue for about 30 to 45 seconds. The broad spectrum ALLUR is fantastic for pain. The Beyond Stress ALLUR product is incredible for anxiety. Both of those can be used easily 2 to 3 times a day. People are different in terms of how long the effects will last. Some people will find that their effects last 8 hours. Some people will find that their effects last 12 hours. And then the sleep product you want to use one time, usually about an hour before bedtime. The balm is something that can be used multiple times throughout the day. Again, it's going to be specific to the individual. Usually the relief will last anywhere from 6 to 8 hours.